when we sold the first container at Amazon, I think that was the point that we thought that this could be some. Of course, there's a foundation, like what kind of education you have that helps, and what kind of early experience you have. But the learning is lifelong. Maybe I knew little less, I could have bankrupted the business that year, right? So if I, like, let's say if I had a knowledge, if my skill set is my 2018 skill set, and if I apply in 2020, I will bankrupt my company. If I have to write a book about my success, it could be like maybe a 10-page book. But if I have to write a book about my failures, it will fill all this room.
I'd like to start asking Kavir, when you were growing up, what were you thinking? What was on your mind? And looking back to where you are today, like what is something that you may have thought about? Is there a connectivity to where you grew up to where you are today? Love to hear something.
Not at all. So grow up like a very like, my basic education from Pakistan or from basic schools. Just हम like pila school भी कहते हैं, right? And then got little better schools and some better colleges at the end. But yeah, pretty basic middle class lifestyle. That's how I grew up.
Perfect. So we'll love to hear how a middle class lifestyle gets to a $750 million company. That's a very, very inspiring story. Perhaps we'll love to hear, how did you start it? What was the inflection point in your career that gave you the opportunity to start this year?
So I came in USA in 2005. There was some struggle in the beginning. I was worked at airport as for security as well. And then later on ended up getting my first tech job in software. And then from there until and when I was here, my father had a very small business which was already bankrupt by that time. So when I was here, so we were just taking care of that for a few years. And then later on I got married, get settled. Uh, I had a good job in a company for 4 years in a media company in software, and then I was in Bank of America at a reasonable place. So I was settled. Didn't plan this, but when my parents came here, they just wanted us to do something. They bring in some leftover goods for small quantity that was in our basement, and we that just blocked our table tennis. So we couldn't play table tennis. So that was the motivation. So so I collect old coins. So I used to buy and sell coins on eBay. So so to get rid of those goods, so I list them on eBay, then pick and pack, and that's how this all started.
So it all started from, you had some leftover stuff that you didn't need it and you want to get rid of it.
Yes.
And what was like the stepping step from that point? Like, what was the aha moment that got you to, you know what? Now I need to send something beyond just the stuff that I need to get rid of.
So my father, I mean, he wasn't very successful in business, and when we saw that, we actually didn't wanted to do business, right? We were so discouraged because we saw him like bail, and it was a very bad experience because he whatever money he got from his job, retirement job, he just wasted all of that in a business that he did. So but he still wanted to do something. Then he was here and we were like, okay, let's do something on side to get him settled, right? So we imported some goods in small quantity. We sold them. We had like lot of setbacks before we did that. Like we sold to someone, didn't get our money. 2 times that happened, and the third time it kind of worked out. We were able, but finally uh, we just said, okay, if you can sell it online and you can still make some money, what if you do it like when you design proper product which is right for the market and sell it, right? So we give it another try, right? And after first year we realized that you get more orders. You have to, like, because I used to pick and pack myself. You get an order, you get a box from Home Depot, you pack a towel, you ship it, and you get 20-30 orders a day. And then I'm like, okay, I'm a software consultant. I get $100 an hour, and what I'm making right now, maybe $15 an hour by just packing towels, right? So we at that time we learned about Amazon. Like, you can give all your goods to Amazon and they can do pick and pack for you.
Yeah.
So when we learned that, okay, you can, then we realized that you can scale this. Like, you don't have to do it by yourself. You can sell your goods, label your goods, send it to Amazon, and they can pick and pack for you. And since me, and it was done by both me and my brother. Since the beginning, me and my brother, we were living in the same house with our parents. We did everything, like all this planning together. Jabran Niaz, he's my brother. So when we learned about Amazon, we were like, okay, you bring like a container, you label it, you send it to Amazon, order comes, they ship it. You don't actually have to do that labor work, right? And when we sold our first container, we liked it, okay, because Amazon was relatively new, and selling on e-commerce was still hard because there was no tutorials, no guidance. But we were smart people, so we figured things out. The software background, we know how to like upload files, create listings, understanding the SEO or keyword ranking, or understanding what sells and what doesn't sell, or how to even take pictures and list products, because there was no Fiverr at that time. You have to do everything by yourself, right? Sometimes it took maybe like 50 attempts to get the right color of a towel and the right picture, right? And you learn Adobe Photoshop, crop them. So basically everything from scratch, yeah, right? Without much help. But since I think the technology background and software background help a lot. Yeah. And I think we had a lot of passion, like early days. So yeah. So I think when we sold the first container at Amazon, I think that was the point that we thought that this could be something.
So two passionate brothers had corporate jobs, software background, but you said, you know what, that's not what we want to do forever. So you found an opportunity, you sold a container, and that kind of got you a realization. And now this is a business that you can scale. Of course, I'll love to hear more about how things went, but what comes into mind? Because when I talk to some people who are in this business, sometimes they struggle, right? Everybody's doing it. There's not enough margin. Or how do you scale? How do you really go? How do you put leap of faith? So anything that perhaps you can share from your learnings, because I'm sure everything comes with a lot of sacrifices, a lot of experiences. So what were some of your pivot points that got you believe that, yes, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep pushing?
So I mean, still when we started it and we sold the first container, still we were like thinking as a sidekick, right? Yeah. This could be something, maybe make X 10%, 20% more money. So it took us like 3 to 4 years, a continuous success and growth, that actually I did my job in the business in parallel for 4 years, right? Until we actually, this was what year time frame? So we started selling in 2010, and 2014 is when I left my job. I see. Right. So the business, of course, when you start is very small. Yeah. Right. And first year we probably do 200,000, maybe make maybe $10,000-$20,000 profit. You still can't leave your 120, 130K job, right? So 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 we never thought that this can actually become your full-time thing until we actually start hitting like 5 million or 10 million in revenue, and we were like, okay. And but e-commerce was the FBA e-commerce have one benefit, that it doesn't take all of your day because someone is doing pick and pack. So we were able to do it part-time for a long time. And we were like software developers, so any task we need to do, we were automating it, right? So let's say if the order is coming on eBay, you write a script and that's do a drop shipping from Amazon to eBay, instead of just manually entering. So the technology helped. We got hired a little bit help later on as well, but yeah.
No, it's amazing. You were working and you were able to sell $5 million worth of goods, and now you're selling $750 million. So a lot of people are probably thinking, why should I not try? So what advice do you have for people who are in their early inception stages or early stages? Because there's a lot of, everybody says, oh, everybody's doing all that stuff, but what are some of the nuggets from your perspective that are critical as you think about getting into something and being sticky about it?
So I think the journey of everyone is different, right? So when we start selling on Amazon, we didn't have like this person is selling on Amazon, so we should be selling on Amazon. Every time there are different opportunities and you have different situation, right? Everyone have a different skills, different environment, different circumstances in the economy, different market. Amazon was new; it was easy to enter. There was no marketing that time. The Amazon fees were very low, so we entered in the right time, and also there were struggles as well. There was no tutorials, no teaching, no guidance, no awareness. And we didn't know how big it can become, right? Right now, you know. Even Amazon at that time was very small, right? Um, so everyone should look into their own situation. I mean, there are so many opportunities in every industry and they're so big, right? So you first realize what are your strengths, what opportunities are out there, and you just start something that is small. And as long as the opportunity is big in that category or in that niche that you're working on, as long as that is big, you can do like any big business.
That's, no, that's very well said. I guess, are there any as you were growing from 5 million to the different tiers, what were the tiers that help you, like, now I can do the next tier? And you, I know we talk a lot about, you went from just being a pure play e-commerce business to manufacturing business, and you're very, very passionate about Pakistan. So tell us, how did your journey evolve from e-commerce to expanding it and building your own products?
So every entrepreneur have their own journey and they grow with the business. So the person I was who came into this country, the person who was doing job in Bank of America, the person who was after 3 years of doing business, the person I was 4 years ago, these are all different people. Yeah. Right? So every entrepreneur have a journey, right? So we work with a lot of people at job who were like MIT graduates, top Columbia and everyone, and we see, oh, this guy cannot even write a code properly, right? So when you actually, so there of course there's a foundation, like what kind of education you have that helps and what kind of early experience you have, but the learning is all lifelong. Yeah. Right? Uh, in 2 to 3 years in a job, you can learn that someone else might have learned in 30 years. So sometimes you learn too much too fast, and sometimes you learn too little too slow, right? So depending on what you're doing, and what happened in my case was that my learning was still pretty relatively like good, but especially early days of my career, like in my software, it was pretty good, and then it started to like slow down. But my entrepreneur journey was like completely roller coaster. Like I just knew a little bit. I just knew enough to run the business, right? Maybe I knew little less, I could have bankrupt the business that year, right? So if I like, let's say if I had a knowledge, if my skill set is my 2018 skill set, and if I apply in 2020, I will bankrupt my company, right? So I just learned enough, because in the early days we were doing growth from 200,000 or a million, then all of a sudden 5 million, 10 million, then following with 29, 87 million. We were doing 3x of the growth in some of the years, right? And you are still a kid, right? I mean, you're still a very, we doesn't know any about anything, how you can do equity financing, how you can get loans, how you can run business. You're still a kid, right? You still have very basic knowledge. I was not connected to open. I was just a guy with like a little bit job experience and probably very little community, right? So I had no idea until like 2 years ago. I were never didn't even know that I could have get debt financing and raise money to grow my business, right? And this is all organic, by the way. Like we didn't have any investments. We were like, as I said, coming from a business that my dad ran. I had no experience of running a business. So my skill level was very low. But this is also a journey of me growing and learning and matching the size of my business. So my e-commerce company have about 400 people, right? So and we built the e-commerce business first. But last 5 years ago, we started our manufacturing business, which is now 15,000 people, right? So my journey to manage a 15,000 people company is like how many people a big bag have, maybe 100,000, couple of 100,000. So now you need a experience of 1/10 of that guy who's running a large bank, right? And running a manufacturing is more difficult than running a professional
And then
organization.
you're sitting in US, you live in here. So that's something to be said. How are you really running a global ecosystem? Right?
So yeah, so I'll get to that. So we never built a team in USA. So whenever we start building team, we start building from Pakistan, and the background was that we always fantasize that how software companies hire people in India and Pakistan, and that they get projects here and make a lot of money. So we were like fascinated by that, and we use the same concept in our e-commerce business when we need graphics developers, content writers, and different people who manage the business. So we, from the early days, we start building them from a 4 people team to a 20 people team. So my e-commerce company, which is almost 400 people, they're all in Pakistan, nowhere else except Pakistan. So, and I never work in an office for my business, right? All the business for both manufacturing and e-commerce, me and my brother both manage 50% each. And one of the questions that every time people ask me, and sometimes it annoys me, like, then say, who runs your business? You must have some friend or brother or uncle. I'm like, no, why someone else will run my business, right? It's me and my brother runs this business. They're, no, 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 you must have another person. So people have very hard time to believe that you can run a very large business, like either in e-commerce or a very large business with a lot of manufacturing completely remotely. Because I'm sitting in my basement still. Until yesterday, I'm sitting in my basement with two, two screens and on Zoom calls and Skype calls all day long with my team in a different time zone. Yeah, right. And you can do that. So this is also probably one of a very rare example. A close to $1 billion revenue company was entirely built from management built it entirely from remotely. Yeah, right, of this size, and also applies for a manufacturing company of this size, which is entirely built from management who sits in their basement and never been in an office, right? And probably you will not find any example of this scale even today. At least I don't know yet. Maybe if there is any that we don't know, but this is like a very rare thing that you will not hear from anywhere else.
So I guess, I mean, I must ask this question, right? I mean, there's so much negativity about Pakistan and all that stuff, and here you are, so passionate and completely going in the, direction that you're gonna do everything sitting from here in Pakistan. So, A, what motivates you to do that? And then B, what are some of the how are you managing this? What challenges are you facing, and how you because talent management is a different game, especially 15,000 people learning the move. I mean, it's a completely different game. So, what's working for you?
So, as I said, like I had challenges like any other entrepreneur, like when you build your first team and all of the sudden, like within first month, you have crisis, right? That's common. Like you build a new office, you have 4 people team, people not showing up to work, and internet is not working, the power is going out, and you're not joining the meetings and all those things, right? So, but we had something called like a continuous learning. And what we used to do in our software time when we were like working in big banks and other software companies was we have a concept of scrum. Like you talk like 30 minutes every day, you talk about what happened yesterday, what happened, what you plan to do today. So we were doing scrums every day with different teams, right? And we were checking like every day with them, like what's happening. And I had ample time on my side, like I can spend all day with them if needed. And I knew everything because until like we were like $10 million, we had no employees, right? It's just me and my brother. So we knew the whole business in and out, from cropping pictures to taking photos to writing content. Every aspect of the business we built ourselves. So when we were talking with teams, so we were understanding. So we made mistakes like in hiring people. So like anyone else, you make mistakes, you scrap it, you start again, you fell down, you get up again, you do it all over. So we built the same team multiple times, right? Even today, when we started our manufacturing, the team I started with is 90% gone because I made all the wrong hirings in the beginning, right? So, but again, I keep telling like, if I have to write a book about my success, it could be like maybe a 10-page book. But if I have to write a book about my failures, it will fill all this room, right? All this area. So you actually keep trying. You have so many failures, and you actually the biggest learning is from experiences and failures, like you have, right? So we have so many failures, like so you do something, you fail it, then you figure out why you fail it, you work on the root cause, you go back to the drawing board, you fix that problem, you try again.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a guy who doesn't want to give up no matter what. But were there been any situations where something happened, it was so unexpected that you will pause and say, "Oh my God, why am I doing all this?"
Yeah, it happens every day, every time. Like things that you want to share. Like yeah, like any other person, you get frustrated, right? You people make mistakes, and you're like, "Why I'm doing this? I mean, I can just sell this, cash out, and like do something else. Maybe enjoy your life." Yeah, so happens a lot, right? Uh, sometimes it happened like we probably bought too much inventory too fast, and now you are unable to make payments on time, and now your people who are working with you for a couple of years and get the payments are 30-day late, and they're so they stop, and you're like, why the heck I'm doing this, right? So Amazon keep changing their policies, and then you have to keep up with that. The new competition coming in from China, your employees trying to, like, take advantage, and people you train actually like go against you, or take advantage of the information you share, which is confidential. So there are things that happens on a very frequent basis that upsets you, right? But you have to have a positive attitude, right? You understand that if you're gonna do few things right, few things not gonna work the way you expect, and then you have to deal. But what keeps you going? What keeps me going? I don't know. I think all of us have it. I think I'm not unique in that way. I think I have a little bit more positivity than a common person, at least a common Pakistani, I would say. I look at things, I look at the positive part, right? So we look at everything as black and white, right? Someone is good or someone is bad, right? In reality, there is no one who's absolutely good or absolutely bad, yeah, right? Any point in time, a same person on same aspect could be bad, and on the same aspect, the same person on a different time or a different mood would could be good, right? So even the same person is good or bad about the same thing at different times. Yes. Right? So people are shades of gray, right? And life is also like that, right? So there are challenges, there are opportunities. So you can either talk about challenges or you can talk about opportunities. So there are disadvantages working in Pakistan, or there are disadvantages in a remote model. But if I start telling you the benefits of remote managing team or working in Pakistan, you might think that there's no better thing than that, right? So, for example, I go to Pakistan in very early days. I used to go probably once a year, and even the peon opens the door, and half hour he's gonna tell his story like, I have 8 kids and I have this problem and I have that, and after that my HR comes in and he says he's not even married. So, so he wasted half hour of your time, right? And you just give him some cash, and now that disrupted the whole ecosystem of the office, because now HR is upset that why you are like messing up with our process. So, uh, so there is an advantage. Like when you're remote, people can't get you. People can't just be comfortable with you. You're not emotionally attached to anyone. So if you need to fire somebody you're working with 3 years, you can, right? So there are positive sides for certain aspects. Similarly, like I tell in Pakistan, right? With most of the time when we were building factories, you start manufacturing at the same time. In USA, it will take you 3 years to build a manufacturing facility, and then all the approvals to start something, right? While in Pakistan, you can build that in 6 months and start while you're halfway in the construction process, right? Which you cannot do any part of the work. So again, if you keep thinking about the challenges, you will lose your focus upon opportunity. So you actually see everything as a combination of opportunities and challenges, and weigh in like if the opportunities overweighs the challenges, and if it does, then it probably a good you have good chance there.
Let me take a pause and see if I can have the audience ask any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jabran. We keep so, Jabran, when you've talked about your story and some of the unique moments that allowed the company to grow the way it has, one thing you talked about was the importance of your head of HR and finding the right person to help you find the right talent, because you have enormous amount of skills, patent lawyers, senior marketing people, digital. Talk about that, and then your brother and software, and how software has become such a central aspect of building your business from the ground up and scaling it to the size that it is. And I think the last thing you talked about was you studied China, you studied the economics of Pakistan versus China. What were the metrics that made you decide make it Pakistan versus making China?
Okay. So I'll get to the HR part, right? So this is something that I didn't execute it for these 14 years. This is something that I got better recently, like in last 3 to 4 years, I got a lot better in it. And this is probably uh, one of the things that I wish I can go back in time and fix it, right? Which means that uh, not having enough attention to the human resource, not just the head of HR, just human resource in general, right? Your approach to hiring people, right? Uh, like when you are hiring a person, you're like, you have friends and relatives, and you in the early days you prioritize that. You prioritize someone you know, right? That could be the biggest mistake. Is anytime we hired someone we knew, turned out to be the worst mistake with it, right? Because we can I can talk on and on for this. For example, if someone is your relative and he need to go early, you can't stop him, right? If someone is not your relative, you can tell him like, you have to stay until 5 p.m. And there are so many things that goes wrong with that, right? They think they own everything, and they think that they have more leverage on you in terms of compensation, in terms of promotion, and they don't deliver, right? So there is like some aspect of it there, but the important aspect is people don't give enough time to the human resource. Like, so most CEOs are focused on operations and day-to-day things. But in reality, when your organization get bigger, you're not the one who are actually doing the job, right? Someone else is doing the job. You're actually just a people manager, right? And your organization is nothing but the people, right? Any company is as good as their people are, right? So uh, a company like Goldman Sachs will take 30 interview to hire a person, and a common company in Pakistan will take just 2 interviews to hire a person. And that's one of the reasons they're not successful. It's not like they don't have the right talent. They're not making enough effort to go across fa- the right channels to find those 30 profiles, and then have sophisticated people to interview each one of them on technical skills, professional skills, attitude, other challenges, their background check, complete due diligence process, and then hire a right person at a right scale. So sometimes like we are like cheap, right? So we want to hire someone for 2 lakh versus you need someone you want to pay need to pay 4 or 5 lakh. So in cases where I hired a production manager for 2 lakh, he calls me like 2 to 3 crore loss in that year alone. Costed me like 20 to 30 lakh a month. Versus if I would have hired someone for 4 to 5 lakh for that position, I would have saved that money. So you're trying to save money because like your brain works like you want to make more and more profit, but you have to understand like what is important for you, and you have the right person for the job. And if your company is growing very fast, and someone, so it happened to us, someone joined at like 80,000 rupees, and in 1 year, 2 year, he's now 3 lakh. But that person doesn't have that that 6 or 7 years of experience, right? So now we went back and now we want to hire someone from day one at 3 lakhs so that he have more professionalism and other skills developed so that we can grow them. So these are the fundamental mistakes people do when they build organization. And I think the China part, I'll say very quickly, is that in early days, I used to buy everything from China. We just set up our manufacturing 5 years ago. We start building it, right? So uh, the misconception in Pakistan and even rest of the world is that you cannot beat China in their manufacturing, right? So when you go and ask someone like, I want to make this product. So when I went to Pakistan trade shows like Hametex and others, and I asked someone, I need like polyester bed sheets and I need microfiber bed sheets, I need curtains and all these. And they said, go to the Chinese booth. Why you are here? And I'm like, oh, why don't you make it? And they're like, we can't make cheaper than China. And ask them why. So people say stuff which is not real. They say, oh, they have cheaper labor. And I'm like, no, they make $800 per month and we pay $100 a month. So they're not cheaper labor. So I realized that people have basic misconceptions. And it took me many years to decode why China make their products cheaper. And it's very complex thing. I mean, again, we don't have enough time to cover that because they use different manufacturing techniques, they use different machinery, they have different models. But most people, the reason they cannot make cheaper than China, because they don't know how Chinese people are making it. It's not the cheaper raw material or cheaper labor, because you can import raw material from China, slightly higher cost, and you have much cheaper labor. The real trick is to figure out how they actually do it, how they save the cost. And once you learn that, you can beat them in their own game, right? You can make everything cheaper than China anywhere in the world as long as you have the similar cost of labor, as long as you follow the same principles. Okay, there was a question in the end. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. You really appreciate it. And this is kind of on a similar coffee. When you started, attitudes for free trade were friendly different than they are now. Drop the tired of critical spread. How are you and your team thinking about all these attitudes when affect new tariffs coming in or new additional government, regulations coming in about trade.
Okay, so early days it was easy, right? You have simple product, you have simple pictures, and you start and you can be successful. There was no marketing. Now in Amazon or any business, right, it evolves, right? Amazon fees increase, US put tariffs on China. Uh, and there are more competition coming in. So as business evolve or your market evolve, you have to evolve with that, right? Uh, if I don't work 9 hours a day and work with all my teams like multiple scrums and don't develop new strategies, within 6 months I will go out of business, right? That's what happens. Like, I don't know if you know about Amazon aggregators, they acquired bunch of business and all of them are now bankrupt because you have to like understand what's going on in the industry and you have to adapt and react in a reasonable fashion, right? What was working 2 years ago will not work today, right? So if you're not up to date, if you are not up to the mark, and if you are not understanding what's going on, because anything that's making profit, there will be competition, and then you should have a strategy how you deal with that competition. So, if we were doing what we were doing in 2022, this year we could have been bankrupt. And same thing in 2022, if we're doing what we were doing in 2020, we could be done with the business in 2022. But we keep evolving, keep keep learning what other competitors are doing, learn from their best practices, and it's like a continuous disruption, right? Someone coming disrupting you and you are disrupting someone else. So sometimes I explain to my team like 20% of our products will be disrupted by others. So we have to go and disrupt 40% products of other people so we keep growing 20%. So if we don't disrupt 40% new products every year, the 20% disruption that other people are doing in our business will eventually reduce our market share next year.
The architect.
So thanks for one thing I'm asking. Definitely, it's a success story. Pakistan beating China, India, or other there. So definitely, that's you mentioned the niche you have, and definitely quality is one. The role of technology is the second. So I just want to briefly say how you did the combination as a Pakistani company in quality and in technology. And the third part is AI. Are you using it or the role in the future? So I'm talking more future wise and your success story. How use quality and technology to beat the competition, which can be any low cost country.
So I can tell you like how over time we build comparative edges, right? In the early days, we keep our team in Pakistan, right? And usually a e-commerce company have a 7% cost of a payroll. And our cost was always less than 1%, right? So our like cost of running the business was very low as compared to our competitors who always were 6% ahead. Then later on, we build our own logistics. So that saves us another 2 to 3% cost as compared to our competition. So we use our own trucking, we have our own lease warehouses. Then 5 years ago, we see that the tariff war and all that, and we see that can disrupt us. So we set up our own manufacturing that gives us another 3 to 4% leverage in cost. So that adds that additional cushion. But this is not enough even today. Now we are building our own pick and pack ability, right? So we are building a network of pick and pack ability across Europe and USA. Now, this year we have moved from 100% FBA to 95% FBA, and we're doing 5% pick and pack. Next year we're gonna hoping to do 25. So again, you have to have competitive edge. Otherwise, if everyone is at the same level, then how you gonna win? So you have to have something that no one else have, and you have to build your own margins and competition as compared to everyone else.
So it mentioned the how you leverage your software background till now in building your company. Uh, and knowledge is changing so very fast, and uh, especially in past 2 years, how AI has progressed. AI is progressing this year. How are you leveraging that at the moment, and how do you plan to uh, adapt to it?
So one thing we are using in AI is we have our own media team. Like we have our own team, we have our own studio where we separate different sets, and we have set designers, and we have like complete setup. Like you can make a movie if we want. Like we have such a big group, right? So we, for example, do a photo shoot with the normal desi looking model, and we can replace with them with the flawless AI models, right? So that's one advantage. Like you save huge cost over here. right? And you have like you do the perfect photo shoot, but you use AI to actually regenerate the same image with a different model, right? Similarly, like the AI is not new for us, like because we've been software background, so AI is just doing the same technology in a bit more smarter way. So we have been using AI since beginning in different aspects of the business. It applies more on some businesses as compared to other, and in some more in certain categories. So we heavily rely on technology still. We have like our integration from beginning to the end. So we export 600 containers a month, and we no one sends an email to anybody, like from packing list to creating documents to bill of lading to pick up that driver number, contact number, going to the port, delivering to the port, and picking up the port. No docs to anybody. All going through the software, and that happens in the entire business from raw materials to manufacturing planning. There is no communication in the emails. Everything through the system, and 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 you leverage technology. It makes things simple, and it makes things more efficient. So technology is the key. AI is just another aspect of technology.
I might have missed this, but when you started the companies and when you're looking at seed capital, we maybe talked about this, but were you raising? I know you mentioned that capital markets was recently done, but prior, how did you raise a capital? Friends or family, or just
We didn't raise any money, so it was just me and my brother. We had like our monthly saving from our job, and we start with little bit, and business made profits, and we grow from profits organically.
Jabran, such an amazing story, right? Really inspiring how you did this. Amazon has evolved over the years, right? They've done the things, they're crafting themselves, they'll compete. There's a whole controversy on them looking at what their partners are doing and replicating with Amazon basics. Any big thing that made you switch that Amazon did? One example of something that disrupted you and then how you react to it.
So we see a lot of competition from China, and they come into our categories. They have like a lot of VCs are getting into our categories, and they are like selling at $5 loss, $4 loss. And now either you give up your business or keep up with that, right? So we do face challenges like anyone else. Like it's a very challenging market, and there are like all these aggregators. They have raised billions of dollars, and of course, what they did with that billions of dollars, they sold their product at loss, right? Which means you have to list your product at loss. But luckily for us, we have built so much margin. Also, with the Shein, Temu, TikTok, all these new markets are coming in. So what we are doing right now is we were like Amazon only. Now we are like selling everywhere. Like we are now selling on Walmart, Shein, Temu, TikTok. We are selling other markets, and now we are not just trying to be diversified from Amazon. So that it happens very frequently. Like we see disruption in product levels and category levels, but we are just and we lose. Like in certain categories, someone comes in completely beats you in your own game, and then you have to start over something else. So it happens a lot, and it's something that you have to deal with day to day basis. Yeah. Jibran, you have a very inspiring success story, and you don't get to the level you were at without having the right mindset. You talked about growth, and like you have to become a certain person to grow into the person who needs to be to run that company. Your company is not gonna grow more than what you are able to as a leader. So, but with growth also comes uncertain. Like you might want to do 12 things at once, but maybe the right thing to do is like handle two things at once. So there's that like level of uncertainty that comes with growth that you have to manage. Do you actively manage that? And I mean, how do you and how do you maintain that balance? That yeah, you're growing, but at the right pace where you are able to you can do everything that you want to do, but you're still doing the right things to keep the company moving, and you're not falling into like analysis paralysis and such. So you're bound to make mistakes, right? I mean, at one point I started my own marketplace in Pakistan, like Daraz, and it was third highest at some point. Uh, and and I did like a little thing with the game development because too much background in software. Those two things failed. I did something in pallets, which I like making like from agriculture waste, and now I put that on the side because I was too busy. Yes, you try something that is different. Few things works, few doesn't. You know how much time you have and how much commitment you have. and you just need to prioritize, right? You have a $750 million e-commerce business, you have a $200 million manufacturing business, you have a logistic business, and now you have to see like the new business you're doing, is it gonna value the time you're putting on in the long run? If the answer is yes, then if you have a bandwidth, then do it. And if the time that's gonna take out and it's gonna impact your core business, then maybe it's not a good idea. And the only way to do it sometimes is just try it. If it doesn't work, then it is what it is. I mean, me and my brother, we since we both run it, and we always like is like नहीं करो यार ये फिर फंस जाएंगे. So some, how do you maintain that personal sanity during that time? I mean, do you do like physical exercise, like yoga, something, meditation? So I know I don't look that fit, but I have a personal trainer who comes to my home. So I learned that I'm not a guy who's gonna go to the gym at your own will. I need someone to actually force me to work out. So I have 4 kids. So my wife is like, it can't be like you go to gym and I'm watching 4 kids. So I find a balance that I within my peak of my workday at 12, my trainer comes in 1 hour, work with me. It relieves stress. It recharges you. I think it's a very good thing to have a fresh perspective, and it keeps you like healthy as well, mentally and physically both. So this is what I do. Sure.
Like, Jabran, great presentation, great journey. I've seen you before, and I'd like to really ask two questions. How do you really see yourself evolving in the e-commerce industry in the next 5 years? Part two of my question, from 700 million to multi-billion dollar, do you have any plan to take this company IPO down the road?
So we have been thinking very aggressively about it for 2 years now, right? And we have here like, if we should, if because we reinvest a lot of our profits into product development or manufacturing side. One route is like we show, let's say, 5 to 10% profit, 5 to 7% profit we can easily show, and based on that, let's say if we are valued between 1.5 billion to 2 billion, then we do go IPO and then raise 100 $200 billion from market and reinvest. One of the challenge is that the money I earn from a US company, I will no longer be able to use for my, and most of the funding I need for my manufacturing, because manufacturing is more like, for example, my manufacturing may have 100 billion in assets and machinery, land, equipment. So I need money for that. But my manufacturing company doesn't have resources to actually uh, uh, get financing of that level, right? So right now we have 100% equity between me and my brother. Uh, by the way, we are the only company of this size who have 100% equity, because any company who's doing more than 1 billion, I mean, not a single person have more than 5% or 10 equity, 10% in that company. They're like, so if we try to raise capital, we could become 5 times, 10 times bigger very quickly in short time. And that can create a huge opportunity. And whenever we do that, we have to do it. And now the tricky part is that two companies are very dependent on each other, because the US company is buying directly from Pakistani company, and Pakistani company doing a 90% business with just one company. So either these two companies become a little bit more independent, like we buy from other suppliers, and or the manufacturing company sells to other companies as well, which we are working on. So it can become a problem for an investor if we go, because if we go IPO, then we have to like fulfill all the legal requirement that comes with IPO, and we don't want to get into a situation where the IPO actually those requirements slow us down. So right now we have a lot of leverage on decision making. We can do whatever we want and we can grow, but we have a great opportunity to actually do IPO at some point in time and grow this to like we can still grow to like 5 billion or maybe 10 billion without actually raising money. Even that is on cards as well, because on our history of growth, I hope we can do that. The market never remains same, so I don't, if we can keep up with the changes that is going on, we see that we can become a much bigger company in 5 to 10 years. But IPO could be one route to that.
Yeah, thank you. But I think the pro government now, the Trump is coming in January. It's going to be much more easier, less regulations for you to get into that if you are, willing to take some dilution in your company share.
Sure.
Yeah, you're like giving me a good answer, man. I'll try to see if I always a week for a date. That I know. I'm a D young East.
No, I've been working with a few companies. I mean, I talked to few companies who are interested to take us IPO, but not something that we are convinced. Especially the market right now is not ideal. Maybe when things are better in a year or two, we will consider it. Really.
So, Jabran, can you talk about just your future for Pakistan? I know when you were talking earlier, we were talking about helping the job market out there, right? What's your plan in the next 5 years for that?
Okay, so one thing we did is we have acquired 263 acres land in Nooriabad, Sindh, and we are increasing our manufacturing capacity by 3 times. Right now, we are the 12th largest exporter in Pakistan already, and in number of containers, we are the largest. And I explain you what does that mean, because we make everything using polyester, which is 3 times cheaper than cotton. So actually, in terms of our infrastructure, like machines and people, we are bigger than probably the first and second largest already. We're just using a raw material that is cheaper. Otherwise, our number of containers, our infrastructure is already largest. And now we are trying to build 3x of that, right, in next 2 to 3 years. And we are investing somewhere between 50 to 100 million in next 3 years to build Pakistan's history's largest manufacturing unit, right? So if that happens, if the Trump put more tariff on China, then it creates huge opportunity for us. And even if that doesn't happen, we have learned how to reduce the manufacturing cost. Like again, I said in 5 years we made many mistakes, and now in many categories we are making products cheaper than China, right? So once you start making something cheaper, the order is endless, right? The market is infinite. You can get as much order as you need if you can beat everyone else's quality and price. So we believe that there is great potential. We are heavily like betting all the chips on Pakistan, and we see great potential in manufacturing and e-commerce for Pakistan.
Yeah, but how is it your sales in the US versus outside?
So right now we are about 72% USA, 7% to 8% Canada, 7% UK, and about 15% Europe. Maybe like 1 or 2% off somewhere, but yeah, something like that.
I had a question about Amazon. With such a large concentration on your e-commerce side, which is through Amazon, how do you sleep at night, knowing that anytime Amazon can just like that shut you down? Also, the reason I'm asking is we also operate an e-commerce shop on Amazon, so I just wanted some guidance as to how you navigate that.
So couple of things, right? That is a risk, right? Yeah, the general risk, right? So two things, right? If you're not doing anything which violates their policy, they cannot do that. Okay, right? And you're big enough to give them a trouble as well. For example, we do bulky products. In terms of revenue, maybe we are 0.1 or 0.2% of Amazon, but in terms of like we sell bulkier products, right? So we occupy between 1 to 2% of space in FBA. So imagine 1 to 2% of business Amazon losing, right? Also, if they turn us off illegally, we can go to a lawsuit that can cost them tens of billions of dollars, right? So if you're doing everything by the book, and if someone turns off the switch, I mean, in this country, they can have consequences. So I think we haven't seen any like risk at Amazon, but depends like what kind of business you're operating. If you're doing something legit, we try to stay away from stuff that is risky, like anything that people's health or safety or medical that can have a consequence. If we have an intention to build another business to actually handle high risk products, but we try to do like safe products that cannot hurt anybody, cannot harm anybody, and we comply all the policies.
It's a kind of question for you. So I understand most of your products are textiles, obviously coming from Pakistan. So manufacturing in Pakistan, what other categories do you see potential besides textiles where for e-commerce, from their point of view, we get import other
Items in other categories besides textiles. Can make anything in Pakistan theoretically. For example, since we started with bedding, we are bigger in bedding, but we see a bigger growth in other categories. For example, we are the largest cookware exporter from Pakistan. So we make cast iron cookware and we make non-stick cookware in Pakistan. Right now, only China is the biggest player in non-stick cookware in the world. But we figure out how to make non-stick cookware cheaper than China, so we can capture all that market, not just on Amazon, on everywhere else. Similarly, we make plastic products. We make hundreds of plastic products. We make metal, like metal racks. We make metal products. We make products that are only made in Salcor. only made in cell code in the world. No one else makes it. Now we make those products in Karachi in our own factory as well. So we have built an expertise how to do transfer of technology from anywhere. It could be anything. There are some fundamentals you have to follow. And as long as you follow those fundamentals and you have an economy of scale at the sales side, you have the business, you can build any type of manufacturing. So, for example, we were smaller in apparel. Now we are like much bigger in apparel. We do metal products. We do plastic product. We can do plastic hangers, food containers, drinkables, lunch boxes, food containers, plastic organizing products, metal racks. We are designing office chairs. So any point in time, we are designing all sorts of non-textile textile products. Of course, the products we have more expertise, we lean more towards that. But even if we have to make like fitness equipment, even electronics, as long as you have business and you can prove that it could be a profitable model in the long run, and you have a way to get the business, it is feasible to make it a Pakistan.
Jabran, firstly, thanks for coming. It's excellent what he said. You mentioned that nearly 20-25% of your business is now manufactured in Pakistan.
95%, 90 to 95%.
What percentage of it, number one, is geared to US market? Number two, I assume it is a large proportion. What are the alternates if you've got for alternate markets in case something happens? I'm sure there must be some backup plans that your manufacturing can carry on if there is a limitation.
Okay, so the same ratio of my market size, like 72% USA and that Canada, UK, Europe, the percentage I said before, that's the same percentage I export, like 70% USA, 7% Canada, 7% UK, and then 15% Europe. Same percentage, more than 90% products are made in-house in our own manufacturing, because the value of the cost of goods is only 20-25%. Then there are freight, custom duties, profits, the last mile delivery, logistics, storage, and marketing, and everything else. So I already sell my goods, like 10% of my exports are already to other companies, and we are growing that. So the last 2 years, the challenge we had that our manufacturing was not able to keep up the growth of our e-commerce. Right, that's why we are expanding it by 3x. That we are making our manufacturing big enough that not only fulfill the orders of Utopia, but we attend all the trade shows in Hemtex and Canton Fair. We are probably the one of the few companies who start putting out the trade show in China, because everyone is so scared of China. They don't put a trade show in China that we can't compete with them, because someone will go to the next booth and say, you're giving us 2 times the price, but we can go and tell them we don't have to pay tariff and we are 10% cheaper. So you save 20%. So we go to Canton Fair, and actually we are the pioneers in directing Pakistani community that you can go and get orders from China trade shows. There's no need to be scared of them. So we are diversifying in other areas, not only in product categories, but also in markets.
Have you considered India, like selling in India?
Manufacturing in India as well. Manufacturing or selling in India, no, because being a Pakistani is challenging to logistically. Also, I have a theory of the e-commerce is viable in US, Canada, UK, Europe. People with a certain per capita income is needed, because the soda can in USA costs 25 to 30 cents, but you are able to pay $3. Cannot do that in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. So I think that a lot of markets are not mature enough for us to enter the e-commerce, and there are no margins, even though like Daraz is going out of business, right? So that tells you like even a China cannot survive running an e-commerce company, because people don't have a buying power to pay the additional logistic cost that is associated with, because now you're paying 20% sales tax, which probably in the gray market you're not paying. You're paying delivery costs, additional cost, marketing costs, which it may not worth it.
But it's actually a growing market, and we're selling in Amazon US and India, and about 7% of our shares in Amazon India. So
But if you manufacture, since you have a brand already developed on Amazon, if you manufacture in India, you can easily sell in India, Amazon.
True, but see, the brands are dying. I believe the Temu doesn't have any brand. They don't show you brand, and they have 60 billion in revenue. Shein doesn't show you brand. They have 60 billion in revenue. So when our kids, the Gen Z will grow up, they don't care about brand. So no one buys my product because of my brand. I talk to people and they say, "Oh, you're not doing social media marketing," and I like, okay, take out your phone, search Utopia or NY Threads, and they find 5 products. I'm like, okay, why do I care? You know my brand or not? You're buying 5 or 6 products from me. That all it matters, right? You're my customer. You're buying my products. If you don't know my brand, it's okay. I don't mind it. So the people, at least like, unless you're big enough like Gucci or Nike, like you're doing 60 billion in revenue, we believe that when we will cross 5 billion threshold, then more people will know Utopia brand. Right now at like less than a billion, most people will not remember. And food varies, like if you're buying a shoe, then you probably remember even at $1 billion, but the type of products we sell, we need to do a lot more before people recognize us as a brand.
All right, Mahmood, let's do closing, and then because we'll give, well, Ahmad right.
Hi, thank you for coming here and very insightful information. I had a question about setting up office in Pakistan. Like when you said you initially set up your office, you did not go there, or you went once a year or something. So how did you manage that? I know you've like had a question.
So very good question. I highly recommend don't try with work from home model in Pakistan, right? With people, especially young generation, right? There's a discipline that you only learn by working in office, and it only good for people who have more than 5 or 10 years of experience that they can operate with. Also, the freelancer, you don't know how many jobs they're doing, right? Yeah, maybe working full time for you and maybe 5 other companies, right? So you want to build a small office like in Shara Faisal or in Lahore somewhere, like have a admin, have a HR, have 4 people pick and drop using your own vehicle so that they come on time. And you have HubSpot like a software to monitor them what they're doing, right? And you talk to them daily for half an hour. Otherwise, don't do it. Oh, thank you so much.
Sure. So, Brian, maybe I'll have a couple of questions.
Sure.
In my conversation with you, you have so much information. See, you're churning things that it's always in your head. How do you keep up? What do you do to really know everything that you know? You know GDP numbers, you know this. Yeah. How do you keep up with everything which you do and run a business of this scale and size?
So I run into people who challenge me like with questions like this economy and that, and then I go and read. Yeah, and everything is now accessible. We don't have any excuse. Yeah. So I always felt that again we just talk about the other GDP numbers and like then I had to prove it with numbers because like you can argue all day long, but no one can argue numbers, right? So yeah. So I think it's an attitude like if you have to keep up with the business, it's not me keeping up with this, it's the business pushing me to be this, right? Even if the business is growing and if I have like a 10% more sale next month or 30% year-over-year growth, if I don't read it, I'm gonna be out, right? Someone will take over me. So it's like not only me pushing the business, it's business pushing me to what I'm becoming.
Yes. Okay. I think earlier you said that the person you were when you started the business, the person you were as the business was growing, different person. But 10 years back now, if you were to give advice to your younger Jabran, what would be the advice when they started? The reason I ask the question is many people here want to start or they are in that journey where you were at $5 billion range. What advice do you have for the younger Jabran and for that?
It feels that I give a lot of advice today, but I believe that I'm mostly sharing experience. And I think the best advice I can give to people is don't give advice. Like share your experiences, let people decide. But I just shared my experience, like how I solved that problem. I don't want to give you an advice. I want you to make your own mind. So I think
Good advice.
yeah. Yeah, the only advice I want to give is don't give anyone advice, right? Let share your experiences. You were in the same situation, what you did, and what worked for you and what didn't work for you, right? I think in our culture is like if you want to do something, everyone want to. Why don't you do this? ऐसे क्यों नहीं करते यार? Get नशे क्यों नहीं किया? तो there is too much advice, I think. So my yeah. So 10 years ago, I had less knowledge, less information, and I thought I knew a lot. I think now I knew a little bit more, and I know how this I know. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the learnings and sharing that you shared with the team. And I sincerely appreciate you coming to Chicago and sharing your experience.